Hi, Greg Lewis, MetaStock Software. You're about to watch one of the presentations from the 2017 Online Traders Summit. I know you're going to enjoy it. Before we begin, I want to tell you just a little bit about us here at MetaStock. We've been in business for about 30 years. MetaStock is about the most powerful platform you can get for the private trader anywhere. You can test, you can scan, you can forecast, you can customize to your heart's content. It's an amazing piece of trading technology. If you'd like to get a free extended trial of MetaStock, I encourage you to go to metastock.com/traders-summit 3-for-1. That's metastock.com/traders-summit 3-for-1, or just click one of the links provided, and you can get 3 months of MetaStock for the price of one. That's an amazing deal. I encourage you to do so. I know you won't regret it. Please enjoy the presentation and successful trading.
We're going to do a little bit of a QA session. I kind of want to change gears a little bit. I did promise to do the rest of my presentation. There was 2 other things I wanted to show in MetaStock, so I'm going to do that. Before we do that, though, I'm just very curious about a couple of things, and we're going to throw up some polls. So go ahead and get ready to answer some polls, guys. I'm curious, how long have you guys been here today? We're at okay. Big day, right? I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds to answer, just so that we can kind of move on. I just want to change gears a little bit. We've kind of had an intense day, and this is always interesting. So here's the results. 5, 4. This is when I'm going to close the poll. 3, 2, 1. 0. Let's share that with you. So more than 53% of you have been here the whole day since the beginning, and that's just really curious. I actually have all kinds of numbers about when people come and leave. GoToWebinar actually does a really good job of kind of breaking that out. So, but I thought I'd ask. The other question I have for you is this one. Are you the proud owner of MetaStock? And the answers available are yes or not yet. So I'm curious to know this. You know, the QA session, I'm going to, if you are one of those MetaStock users and you have pretty specific questions, I'm pretty good in the software, and so we'll stick around and answer those questions after I get done. And then even if you're kind of interested in MetaStock and you have questions that I didn't cover, we'll just leave the program open and answer some questions for a while. So the responses to that are, there you go, 31% yes, 69% not yet. What is the difference? So we do have a couple of questions that are coming in. The link for hit and run, he did share that a little bit earlier. We had somebody that was asking for the link. I'll see if I can dig that up for you and kind of reshare it. It should be right here for me. Oh, here it is. Okay. We'll go ahead and load that up. Okay. There's the link for you, Peter, for the link for hit and run. Send to all. The TradeSpoon is just tradespoon.com. Anton. The lease version of MetaStock RT, or the full version, is $199 for FX data or $250 for both. And that includes all of the data as well as the MetaStock platform. You can do that, Wayman, on a 3-for-1, so you can try it for 3 months. And I would definitely encourage you to try it. If you decide you like real-time, what you'll do is you'll do a one-time purchase of MetaStock RT. Okay. Swabhan asked a question. If I get a 3-for-1, do I get Stephen Primo's and other stock scanning? That's not included. But what you could do is what we call the Trader's Toolbox. I'll just go back to it real quick. And what you could do there is you could get this, and this would include Steve Bigelow's, Kirkland's, and Rick Sadler's from that. and that would be $899. John asked a really good question. Can MetaStock be my broker? Nope. We might do some affiliation with brokerages, but I don't think we're going to set up a big a brokerage account here. But right now, it's a decision support. It's designed to help you decide what you should be buying, and that's really kind of been our sole focus for pretty much ever. And I think we do a really, really good job of it. So I'm trying to. All right, looks like that covers most of the questions that you've got. Wayman had a question, how do I get a list of all the indicators and add-ons that are included and what add-ons are available? What I'll have you do, they have some lists that are available that include MetaStock. There's hundreds of indicators that are actually included in the software program. There's about 35 or 40 different trading systems. I showed you the RMO, but they have all kinds of ones. If for lists like that, I would have you contact our sales chat, and I'm just going to paste that in the link here too, which I should have been doing all day, but here you go. Okay. All right. Okay, that looks like the majority of the questions. Let's go ahead and kind of talk to you about the other two things that I really like in MetaStock. You know, of course, we can do like system testing and forecasting, and you know, there's a lot of cool stuff that we won't be talking about today, but I want to finish like the three things that I really like in MetaStock. The second, I talked about RMO during my 1 hour, and we talked about Steve Bigelow's add-on as well. The other things that I wanted to show you is kind of the dynamic trading tools, and this is one of the things that I use pretty frequently in what I'm doing. And let me kind of show you how those work in MetaStock and kind of how they plot. Because a lot of times people are looking for stocks that maybe have just penetrated through support and resistance, or for stocks that might be breaking out of a trend line and that kind of stuff. And even our customers, to a good degree, may or may not know that these tools actually exist. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is, again, this right here is our indicator quick list. And like I said just a few minutes ago, there's several hundred indicators that are actually on here. But if you come down here, there's these ones that are called DT, Dynamic Trend, Resistance, longer term, shorter term. And what I've done is I've actually created a template that actually applies all of these to a chart. Right now we happen to be looking at Boeing, because as Boeing came up on my the Rick Sadler scan that I was doing earlier, you can see there's a little TLS. And look at how good all of these little entry signals are for his T-line squeeze and his T-line break. But I have a template that's available, and this isn't included in MetaStock, but if you want, you can email it to me. And what it's done is it actually kind of takes all of those automatic indicators, puts them all on a chart, and makes them kind of pretty for you. So if you want to email me, I can just send you this file. It's pretty easy to just put it into your folder, and then that way you don't have to do the work either. I'm going to go ahead and apply it right here. And it'll go ahead and load the levels, and anything that it finds, whether it's an uptrend or a downtrend or a resistance or a trend line, it's going to go ahead and kind of plot on the chart for you. So right here, for example, let's go ahead and just kind of walk through kind of like what we just did. If you kind of have a longer term resistance area, that'll be kind of the darker green lines that are kind of going across the chart. The lighter will be kind of more your shorter term resistance levels that are on the chart. Okay, here you've got kind of your the same thing with the support levels. If it's a lighter red, it's a kind of a shorter term resistance, where if it's a darker red, you're going to have kind of longer term resistance. Okay, and this is actually pretty. This isn't exactly why I wanted to show you this. I mean, I wasn't planning on this, but look at how much it moved after it kind of broke up above this longer term resistance level. The stock just kind of shot up, right? And that's kind of the reason a lot of people like to look at this thing. They like to kind of see when stocks are breaking through well-established support and resistance levels. And since we're kind of generating all these levels kind of automatically, so to speak, we've actually put scans that say, okay, well, give me a list of all the stocks that kind of penetrate the long-term and resistance, or the short-term resistance. And I'll show you how those work in a minute. But in addition to that, we do have an expert advisor that I can apply to the chart that'll kind of give you the values. So if we wanted to, you'll notice there's kind of 4 different versions. They start with DT, and this one looks at your support and resistance on a longer term. shorter time. And then you have some trend line analysis. So you can attach any of these to the chart. I don't generally look at the expert advisors, but let's go ahead and just kind of see what's in there. Let's go ahead and look at the support and resistance longer term. I'm going to attach that to the chart. I'm going to go ahead and close it. And what I'm going to do at that point is just see what the commentary has to say about it. So if I'm looking at this, it just kind of gives us some information. It broke above the upside resistance level 158 days ago. This is a bullish sign. The previous resistance level of 153.85 may now provide downside support. Volume on the day of the breakout was quite heavy. So it just kind of gives you an overview of what the support and resistance looks like. If we wanted to find stocks that were kind of looking to break up above this resistance area, well, that's what the scanning is for. So what I can do here is I can actually come in here. I can go into the exploration, and I don't have one of these ready, but we'll just pick a small list so it runs real quick. And let's see if we can find something that broke through. You'll notice DT support and resistance. This would be looking for a longer term breakout or a shorter term breakout or trend line breakouts, breaking up above a trend line or down below a trend line. So if you're looking for some good opportunities, we can go ahead and let's go ahead and look for we'll look for shorter term support and resistance breakouts. And what I'm going to do is, instead of scanning all 4,400 stocks or so, I'm going to go ahead and kind of just make sure that I'm going to do a smaller list. And the reason I'm going to do a smaller list is so that it comes back real quick. So I'm not trying to entertain you while this runs through. So instead of all 4,300, let's just do the S&P 500 right here. I'll go ahead and click on Start Exploration, and we'll let that run. Well, it's not going to take very long. I will tell you that while you're broadcasting, while I'm broadcasting, it runs a little bit slower. It'd probably be done already if I wasn't actually broadcasting the chart. But it is bandwidth. It depends on how much bandwidth you're using. And obviously, sharing the screen is pretty bandwidth intensive, which is why I usually pre-run the explorations. They don't take a long time to run, but they tend to take a lot longer time to run when I'm actually just showing them. So I don't see a lot of questions coming in. We'll go, or maybe I need to scroll down. Oh, you guys aren't seeing my screen. The poll's still up. I'm sorry about that. Well, let's go through that a little bit more. I want to show you that chart again. Ali says, I told you. I told you I've done it where I've taught for 15 minutes and not shared my screen properly. I didn't mean to do it today. Ali says, I'm a user of MetaStock since 2007. Can I get access to it? Yeah, just drop me an email. My email address, I'll send you just the dynamic, it's the DT templates. Everything else is built in. What the dynamic templates do, because none of you guys saw this, but let me just kind of step back a minute. And when you apply this dynamic template, it's basically going to apply all of the support and resistance levels and trend lines for you. Okay? Gosh, I wish I would have been paying more attention to the question. Sorry about that, guys. But okay, so this is Boeing, right? And so what we've got on here is we've got quite a few different levels that are being automatically generated. Kind of your lighter green levels that you see here are going to be like your shorter term support and resistance areas. And the lighter red levels are going to be kind of your shorter term resistance areas. Okay. Whereas when it's darker, it's a longer term support and resistance. And I've the way I've color coded this template basically is I've basically made it the longer term heavier to give you kind of a heavier idea of which ones break through support and resistance. And you can see this longer term resistance, when Boeing kind of broke up above it, it took a little bit of time, but then it started to really take off. That's why people like to look for kind of these breaks between support and resistance. All of these lines are automatically generated with MetaStock. The template just puts them all on a chart and allows you to see it. So I think I summarized pretty well what I was talking about when you guys were just envisioning what I was trying to talk about. Over here, this kind of gives you a little bit of advice about what is going on the chart. It's telling you how long ago it broke through that resistance level. This is the longer term support and resistance expert advisor. There's also shorter term expert advisors and things like that. in there that you can apply as well. Now, to run the scan, because I didn't show you that either, you're just going to go in here and click on the exploration. You click on which one you want. Here's the versions that are available. You've got DT support and resistance long-term, DT support and resistance short-term. I ran this one because we're more likely to get a break on that. We've got the DT trendline breakouts and for either long-term or short time. So this will find breaks against support and resistance, and these will find breaks against trend lines. Okay. We ran the report, which will catch us up to where I was. And what you see here is kind of anything that broke through a shorter, out of the S&P 500, anything that broke through support and resistance on a shorter time frame. So if I want to sort these by the break up, what you'll see here is the basically number of days since it broke up or down. So we actually had quite a few break up of supports with all of these zeros that we could look at. And you can also sort this breakdown column. And it just means it never happened. So you can scroll down a little bit to find stocks that broke down today or yesterday. This number just represents how long ago that breakup happened. So right here, if I'm looking at Valero Energy, it broke up above a support level, or I'm sorry, up above a resistance level 10 days ago. Okay, that's kind of what it's telling you. And so that way you can kind of go in and find those opportunities that are breaking through a support and resistance levels. Huge apologies, guys, on not sharing that screen properly, but I think I recapped it pretty good. The only thing that you'll need to email me for, because all of these indicators are kind of included for free as part of MetaStock. This is like our indicator quick list, which I also showed nobody. But if we come down here, they're DT levels. Now, all I did to kind of make this template and put it together, let's see, DT. So these are the lines I've got drawn on the chart. Any of the ones that MetaStock finds, it's going to draw on there for you. And what I've done is just put them all on the chart and color-coded them and put them together as a template file. So if you want me to send that to you, drop me a message, and I'll just send you the file. You just dump it into your MetaStock folder, and it's good to go. So, but this is one of my three favorite things in MetaStock. Love to be able to kind of go through and automatically find stocks that have broken through a support and resistance level. So, you guys still seeing my screen okay? Okay, good to hear. All right, good enough. Sorry about that, guys. It's a long day. I get a little bit loopy, and I'm going to blame it just on that. I'll talk a little bit, and then I want you to kind of prepare any questions you've got for me, and we'll kind of go through a little bit of a quick question. Third thing that I want to talk about is Haguro. Haguro is an interesting project. It might be something that I like simply because I put it together. There's a little bit of a story behind Haguro, and I'll tell it to you because we have a bit of time. So as part of my job and part of what I do is obviously kind of recruiting partners like the ones that you've seen today, right? Like Steve Bigelow, I put in a cold call to him and kind of talked to him a little bit about MetaStock, and we developed a really cool product around it. And Haguro is kind of along the same lines as that. So I was in Australia. This is probably, I'm going to guess, I was in California. I was living out of California at the time, and we flew down. And I've been in Utah for about 4 years. So I'm going to say it's about 5 or 6 years ago. I flew down to Australia, and I attended a trade show down in Australia. And I went and kind of introduced myself to a guy by the name of Gary Burton, who runs the Australian Society of Technical Analysts, is what he does. And I kind of just struck up a conversation with him. I said, hey, what are you doing? And what do you teach people? And kind of talking to him a little bit about what he was doing, kind of explained to him what my whole point was. My whole point was to kind of see if we could make something that would appeal to his students, that his students would like. And he showed me this huge PowerPoint. And part of that PowerPoint was a method that is called the Haguro method. Now, I kind of had to look up, just because I'm a little bit of a nerd, actually I'm a big nerd, but I had to look at what Haguro means, and this is actually the Haguro warship. But Haguro this warship was actually named over the sacred mountains of Japan. I guess it's one of the sacred mountains or something like that. And where Barry Burton got it from is it was from this book that was written by a Japanese gentleman by the name of Seki Shimzi. Okay, and he was kind of teaching it in his class. The book was actually called The Japanese Book of Chart of Charts, or I believe is the title. I'm kind of just thinking off of my head, but I think it. And basically, it had a method that they talked about that was a weekly method of a way of looking at charts. And so, long story, I'll try to shorten a long story because it's getting a little bit long. But I said, okay, send me the slides that you've got on this methodology. I'd really like to take a look at it. Decided I liked it and decided to actually code this into MetaStock. And for a time period of a few years, we actually would just let people download it for free off of our website. With MetaStock 15, we decided to include the method as something that was just available. So this is something that's available for MetaStock for free. I also had the late Dennis Peterson review the method. He loved it. It's something that kind of gives you a little bit of a unique view of charts. And it has several components, but we've done a pretty good job of kind of spelling out exactly what those components are. And I think we did a pretty good job of actually implementing them into MetaStock as well. The first thing I want to point out is it's kind of designed to give you a look at weekly charts. And he's very specific. It provides support and resistance on a weekly basis. It kind of gives you an idea of key turning lines based on this methodology. And it gives you a pretty accurate forecast of kind of like what you can expect for the next week. And the thing that I need to kind of explain to you to kind of get into kind of the methodology is the midpoint line. Okay? And to talk about a midpoint's pretty easy. You take the high, you add the low, and you divide it by 2, and you have the exact middle price, which is a significant event in a Haguro chart. The middle of price is kind of the midpoint is kind of something that's significant. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to kind of go back into my chart here, and we'll just throw this into the Haguro model. Okay? So what I'm going to do is, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through exactly kind of what the midpoint line is. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and apply a template, and I'm going to come down here. This will be in all of your MetaStocks. For those of you that use MetaStock, I'd encourage you to play with this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on Apply. That's going to go ahead and apply the methodology. I'm going to hide the expert advisor for now, or the commentary over here. I don't want you reading it until I kind of walk you through it a little bit. Okay. The first thing I want to point out is this kind of this midpoint level. Okay. And this is kind of a bit of a weekly support and resistance. Is the way that he kind of writes it. Okay, and you'll notice that it changes from time to time, but it doesn't change on every bar. In other words, he's not really that concerned about kind of your littler bars here. The criteria that we change it is we look for a wider range bar. Okay, and in case you're interested in exactly the formula that you're using, we set a new midpoint if the range is high minus low, is greater this week than it was the previous week and the week before. Okay. It acts as support and resistance, right? Okay, so just looking at this midpoint line, it didn't change this period because obviously the high minus low range was way bigger here. It didn't change here for the same reason. This is a very narrow bar. I want to make sure we're looking at this on a weekly basis, but this is a very narrow bar, so it still didn't change. It wasn't until this bar that it kind of updated that midpoint line. What it's looking for is a significant big move bars to kind of move your support and resistance. So how would you use this? A little bit in kind of like the trading that you're doing. Well, right now on Boeing, if we're looking to go long, we'd only look to go long above this midpoint because it's going to act as support. If it crosses down below the resistance, then we'd look to go short. So that's as simple. You treat it like a support / resistance level. It's going to hold the price up until it fails. Obviously, all support and resistance fell at some point. But we can feel comfortable in our longs until it crosses down below. Okay, so that's part one of kind of the way the whole methodology is put together. Let me go back in here and just kind of talk a little bit about day numberings. Okay, Siki Shimizu classified every single type of a bar as a different line with a different meaning. So right here, there's a total of about 16 lines that are available here. And the differences are the relationship of where the high and low and the open and close are. Okay, so if you kind of imagine an imaginary middle point right here, number one would mean that the open was below the midpoint and the close was below the midpoint, but there was a bit of a wick. Okay, these are the only possible configurations with the exception of one, where you have an open and a close directly on the middle line. Otherwise, it's going to be classified in any of these different line types. Okay, each of the lines means something. Okay, and each of them had a bit of a different definition based on the week. And you notice that we've actually labeled all of the patterns. There's some ones that are more significant, like 3 is significant. That's why we're highlighting it blue. And 15 is significant. That's why, because those are generally indicative of turning points. Okay, but what we also did was we included what the definitions are in the expert commentary. So if I come into the expert commentary, what I can do here is I can say, okay, well, this week on Boeing, we had an indecision line. Pretty self-explanatory. We had a bit of a doji, right? And it's the same definition as a doji that you would look at as a doji, an indecisive bar. Okay, but when line number 9 appears, the trader should wait for direction. The body is above the midpoint with the closing price lower than the open. If this is a short line, the trader should wait for the market to show direction. In other words, next week, unless we see it starting to go up or down, we're not going to do anything with it. Okay. Over here, and all of these lines have their different definitions. So if I go back a day, we had a number 2 line. This is when this is a long line, as it was right here, and in this particular case, the midpoint is set as a future support for any declining in prices. So in this case, it was a longer line. It met our definition. The range was bigger than it was the day of, or the day before and the day before that. So this set a new midpoint. Concerning line 2, this appears after the outset of a rise in the market after a fall in prices. After a further opening price above the midpoint, and the following price movement should occur. And here's what you should do. Wait for the next week's price to open above the midpoint of the line. If the price closes below the midpoint of the line, close any long positions. After the 4th week of upward movement, the trade should be liquidated. Okay. We also, it kind of goes into more definition about like what each line is and all that kind of stuff. But it's just kind of giving you an overview of what you should be looking at. If we look at this line 15, this is generally a reversal line when found in a high price or a low price area. In this case, it's a high price, but it hasn't really reversed. So in that particular case, if we were looking at this to be significant, we'd want it to kind of confirm by crossing down below the midpoint. In other words, we're not going to take a short position above this midpoint on a weekly basis. So, Bone, yes, I'll be happy to send it to you. Just email me so I don't forget. And I will send you that template, jeffrey.gibby@metastock.com. Okay? And I just sent that to you. Just email me. Happy to send you that template. Trey asks, how do I convince all of these people to come on and present? Actually, it's pretty easy. I blame you, Trey, and everybody else that's here. I actually have people asking me to come be part of this event because it's been so successful. So, generally speaking, we get a lot of people in the room, and they want to get in front of you, and they want to talk to you about what they're doing. And so it's not hard at all to convince people to come in. It's not hard because you guys come. And they like to come. They obviously, they do training education. They have market-related businesses, and they want the exposure. So I convinced them because of you, Trey. Anyway, so that's kind of the method. Oh, one other thing about the method. One of the things that Siki talked a lot about in his book is where you're at in range. Okay, range is significant in the Haguro method. Okay, lines have more significance when the price is extended in range. So in other words, if something's been moving up really, really heavily, and you get a reversal bar, it's going to have some more significance than if it hasn't. This is part where where Gary and I kind of worked about. This is where we kind of put some science to it that you may or may not agree with. Okay, the way we decided to figure if a stock had extended in range was we'd say how far has it traveled from its last peak or valley. Okay, this is the only place where we kind of put some judgment of our own judgment into it. Everything else we were able to use Siki's work from. But what we decided to do is we developed a measurement that said, okay, how far has it traveled since its last trough or its last peak? And we kind of decided on whether if it had traveled more than 7% since the last, then the lines would have more significance. But the reason I want to be really careful about that is that that's what we decided to do to kind of more objectify Siki's work. I want you to understand that he just had, like the way he kind of taught this method, he said it's more extended, more significant when price is extended. We added our own kind of special take on how to measure that. And it's important you understand the distinction there. Okay, but the way that kind of appears on your chart, just going back to the Haguro method, is this just measures from your last peak and trough. And basically this band right here is 7%. So right here, if it's moved, in this particular case, if I can just pull a value out of this, this had moved 122% from the last trough that it had. And when it's kind of up there and extended in range, it's going to be more significant. And in the commentary, if we come back to a point that's been more significant, we actually say the range of the stock has extended more than 7%. This means the candle lines are more significant. Okay. This has been kind of a little bit of a methodology that we just always given away for free. We've never sold it. We decided it was well liked. We decided just to include it with 15 as something that's already installed. Up to that point, you'd have to go and know that it existed and kind of download it from a website. But I'd encourage you to look at it. When Dennis Peterson looked at it, he liked it so much, he didn't do one review on it. He did one review that just talked about what the method was and how to use it. And then he did a second review that actually was really pretty cool. It was just talking about the way we had integrated it into the MetaStock. The way I use it primarily in the trading that I'm doing is I'm always aware of what our weekly levels are. Personally, my decisions are kind of driven off of a daily chart. So I look at this first and figure out what my kind of forecast is going to be and my midpoint, and then I'll kind of do my analysis on the daily chart. And I've had a lot of people over, since we've kind of made it available, say they really, really like it. Since it's included with MetaStock, it's just part of it, just play with it. It is something that's pretty interesting and one of my 3 favorite things in MetaStock. So there you go. That finishes my, one other thing before I kind of get too distracted. The significant events we wrote explorations for. So that would be a candle 3 in the Haguro midpoint cross. So if you want to find stocks that are breaking up above or down below their Haguro midpoint cross, obviously you'd use that the same way you would the support and resistance scan. There's an exploration. You run it like any of the other explorations that are in there, and it's going to work the same way. You just come to the Haguro. It's called Haguro in there. Okay. There's your 3-point. It looks for a candle 3 that also has a plus or minus 7% in range, or in other words, is significant. Okay. The midpoint cross just looks for the stock to cross through its midpoint, either up or down, and you just run it like you would any other scan. So take a look at it. It's pretty cool. I think you'll like it, and it's just something that we've decided to include with MetaStock for free. So the name of the author is Siki Shimzi, spelled like that. And I believe it's called the Japanese Chart of Charts. Let me Google it real quick because it's been a while since it's a very, very rare book. The Japanese Chart of Charts. I get extra credit for actually remembering that on the fly. The Japanese Chart of Charts by Siki Shimzu. is the name of the book, and the author is Siki Shimizu. The name of the book is The Japanese Chart of Charts. So there you go. Okay. All right. Looks like we're running out of questions, which is great. Again, I'd encourage you to go ahead. The people that we had speak today and about their add-ons, I would encourage you to look at. They are some of the people I have utmost respect for. Bigelow's product is so well loved. I always get good feedback on it. Really like Wendy Kirkland. I really like Rick Sadler. Very, very good technicians. One day I will be as good as they are. But in any case, like all three of their methodologies, you can pick them up $8.99 today. Normally that would retail for $12.97. You'll get 2 years of stocks and commodities with that. The retail price on it, on just the subscription alone, would be $149. You'll get 3 months of access to MetaStock. You'll get that boot camp that I'm going to run on September 21st, where I go in, spend some time with you, showing you how to run scans and how to organize charts and layouts and answer any questions you've got. You also get that Unleash the Power of MetaStock course. If you buy all that separately, it's $17.22. If you buy it at the summit, it's $899. And your risk, again, just so you understand what the risk is, $60, $59 to be precise. So if you cancel within 30 days, you'll get a full refund of everything but like your first month subscription of MetaStock. Again, just to reiterate, I've said this all day long, but I'm proud of it. It really does say something. 25 years in a row, every year since 1992. Just think about that for a second. We've been rated #1. There's a reason for that. It's a helpful tool. It helps you scan the market. It helps you find ideas. It helps you test trading ideas. It helps you forecast prices. And I really appreciate all of you that are using MetaStock. And I know a number of you have been with us for 15 years or more. Really appreciate that. Try it out. What's your risk? $59? It's okay. 800-882-3040, or you can visit this online at metastock.com/saleschat. There are a few other questions that I'm going to get to. I do want to say thank you again to Stocks and Commodities. I'll keep it a little bit shorter this time, but they're awesome. We really like the magazine, and it's great to get it on a monthly basis. And you know, I get it for free just because of the industry that we're in. I'd say it's worth every penny that they charge. And again, we're going to include 2-year subscription if you do that offer for Steve Bigelow, Rick Sadler, and Wendy Kirkland. If you just do the subscription to MetaStock, which is you can buy a month and you can get 2 for free, you'll get 5 months of stocks and commodities as part of that. Triads, and they're humble and decent people too. I'm the humblest guy I know. Just kidding. All right. Let's see the end of the questions. I want to thank. Trey's like, I know. I want to thank all of you guys for coming. Curtis, I just realized I knew you. In any case, thanks for coming in, guys, and thanks for being here all day. I really appreciate your coming to the event, and I hope it was worthwhile for you. I have one last request, and I'm going to go home and see the kids. But at the end of the session today, you're going to get a survey. Fill it out. Let me know what you there's really 4 questions. You know, how did you like it? Who was your favorite presenter? Do you have presenters you'd like to see in the future, and what advice you have? Give me your feedback. I'd love to hear it. So with that being said, we're gonna do. I lost track of how many of these we've done, but we're gonna call to close the September edition of the Online Trading Summit. Thanks for coming, guys.